back to our video lecture series for the subject Project Report Writing. Today we are in Unit 4, Structure of the Project Report, Part 2, and we will begin with Chapter 1, the Literature Review. In this video, let's see what is literature review, why it matters, and how can we conduct it effectively. Literature review is an important component of any project report. It gives an overview of the existing research and knowledge related to your topic. Especially a good literature review shows that you are thorough about your project or research field, about the depth of your knowledge in the problem you are going to solve. It shows that you have reviewed on what others have written on the field or problem that your project or research is going to deal with. In simple terms, it is not just reading, it's about understanding the problem, connecting with the others' existing work, and importantly, writing on what has already been said. So the definition for the literature review is a literature review is a systematic examination of scholarly sources. This includes journal articles, books, dissertations or theses, and even conference papers that are relevant to your field. Let's see why we need to do literature review. First, it gives you a complete understanding of the current knowledge. Second, it helps you identify the research gaps, what has not been studied yet, or what questions remain unanswered. Third, it provides a theoretical foundation for your own project. Think of it like this: the literature review is the bridge between the past knowledge and your research contribution. So, how do we actually conduct a literature review? First step is identify the sources. Start by searching for relevant academic material. Use reliable sources like Google Scholar, PubMed, or your university databases. Always prefer peer-reviewed research because it adds credibility. And step 2, reviewing and synthesizing literature. Once you have collected sources, don't just read passively, read it attentively. Ask yourself, what are the key findings, what methods were used, are there any contradictions? Then synthesize means coordinate, which means grouping studies by common themes and highlighting patterns. Remember, the goal is not to list everything you have read, but to show how different pieces of work connect. After collecting and synthesizing, the next step is organizing and writing the literature review. When we come to organizing the literature, there are three main ways: thematic, chronological, and methodological. The first way is thematically. This means grouping studies by common themes or topics. For example, if your project is on renewable energy, you can divide the review into solar energy, wind energy, and bioenergy. If your project is on vehicular communication, you might group the studies into themes like routing protocols, data dissemination, and quality of service enhancement. This approach is very useful because it helps the reader clearly see the different focus areas within your topic. The second way is chronological. Here you organize the literature according to time, that is, based on the year when the studies were published. This shows how the research has evolved over time. For instance, you might start with the early foundational work from 1990s or 2000 and then show how more recent studies have built on them. This is especially effective if a field has gone through major developments or breakthroughs over time. Usually, we focus on the recent works like last 5 or 3 years literatures. The third way is methodological. In this method, you group the studies according to the research methods used. For example, some studies may use qualitative methods like interviews or case studies. Others may rely on quantitative methods like surveys, simulations, experiments, and some may combine both mixed methods. This approach helps readers understand the strengths and weakness of different methodological approaches in your area of research. Once you have organized the literature, the next step is writing the review, literature review. And here there are three key parts. First part is introduction. Here we can briefly introduce the topic and explain why it is relevant to your project. By explaining that, you set the stage for the reader so they know what to expect from your project report. Second, body of the literature. This is the main section where we discuss the findings from the literature. But don't just summarize, go deeper, give quantitative values of the findings like the percentage of accuracy, percentage of improvement that the work has done. Also highlight patterns, trends and contradictions. We can write about where the literature agrees, where it conflicts, and most importantly point out the research gaps, that is what has not been studied yet. That is important because your project or your research mostly lies on this research gaps. Finally, the conclusion. Here you wrap up the review by summarizing the key insights. You highlight the research gaps one more time and then explain your own study that will address those research gaps. This gives a logical flow. Past research leads to the need for your project. Think of your review as a storyline of research from what's been done earlier to where your project or research fits in now. Now let's look at some common mistakes to avoid while writing a research review. First is the lack of focus. Don't include irrelevant studies. Keep it around to your research questions. Next is over reliance on few resources. Use as many as papers to show that we covered most of the aspects. Next is being descriptive rather than analytical. This means don't just summarize what other papers have said or worked on. Be analytical to critique, comment and compare it with others' work and with your work. And finally, the important one is ignoring contradictory studies. If two studies disagree, mention it and you discuss why they contradict and state your perspective. So a strong literature review need to be focused, cover many literature, analytical and balanced. The importance of literature review. Because it creates a foundation for your research. It provides justification by showing why your study is necessary. Contextualization, or it places your work within the larger academic conversation. It offers a framework for analysis, meaning that the theories and models you find during literature review can help you analyze the data later. So in short, literature review is where you prove to the academic world that your project isn't random, it's part of a bigger scholarly conversation. And here are the significance of the literature review. The literature review is fundamental, so without it, the project or research stands on a shaky ground. So here are we see some various significance of the literature review. The first one is establishing the research context. Through a review, you understand the current research scenario, that is what's been studied, which methods were used, what conclusions were drawn, etc. The next significance is identifying gaps in existing research. The unresolved issues, unanswered questions or areas underexplored are the research gaps. By pointing out these, we can justify why our research is required. So, the review is not just background reading, it's your chance to say, here is what's missing and here is how my project will fill that gap. Next one is building on previous research. A good review ensures you are not duplicating someone else's work. Instead, you are building on it, like adding another layer to your building. So the next significance is establishing a theoretical framework. This means we can identify the theories and models that others have used, and we can decide which among them can support our study. That is your project. For example, if past studies used a specific routing protocol for communication, you can adapt it to or show how your work extends it. This provides a solid backbone for your research design and research problem. Next is enhancing methodology. By reading prior work, you learn from others' success and mistakes. This helps you design a stronger project work. And next significance is providing a comprehensive background. Your review provides the scholarly foundation. It displays your intellectual maturity and reveals your thorough understanding of the area. Next is informing data analysis and interpretation. Theories from literature can guide your data analysis. They give you a framework for interpreting the findings and comparing results with earlier studies. Next is contributing to academic discourse. Every review contributes to the ongoing conversation in research. By filling research gaps, you add in new insights, and by pointing out the unanswered questions, you guide future researchers so that they can try it as their research work or project work. So your review is not just for your report, it's also for the wider academic community. Next and final significance is supporting evidence-based practice. This is especially important in industries like healthcare, business and education. A strong detailed review guarantees that judgments are based on trustworthy and proven research. Evidence from research is used to support numerous policies, instructional strategies and even medical procedures. Your project will be grounded on evidence-based practice rather than assumption if you do a systematic review. A literature review is more than just a formality to wrap up. It is important to the effect or credibility of your project. So that's all for today's session on the literature review. Thank you for watching, and we'll continue with more in the next video.